In this edition of Art Rocks, an artist making glass and metal work together.
In 1978, I lived in this log cabin that I built. And that was kind of like the beginning of the ability to be able to use my hands to create things. I loved it.
An average building transformed into a reflective installation.
I want to remove people from the ordinary experience with a place.
Dreams and nightmares come to life in ceramic form.
Sort of folk art from the culture of me.
A NASA architect designs for a more down-to-earth project.
Design is an iterative process, and improvement really is an iterative process.
It's all ahead on this edition of Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello, I'm James Fox Smith, publisher of Country Roads magazine, and this is Art Rocks. We begin our program today with a Louisiana craftsman extraordinaire. Frank Thompson has worked as a licensed contractor, and his skills at blacksmithing, woodworking and stained glass have all led to his current interest in fused glass. In 2005, Thompson lost his studio in southwest Louisiana to Hurricane Rita. But his reaction? I didn't like that studio anyway. I built a better one. His skill as a craftsman is only matched by his personal optimism and his sense of humor.
Hi, I'm Frank Thompson, and I'm from the Gillis-Topsy area, which is near Moss Bluff, which is north of Lake Charles. And I do fused glass mounted on polished aluminum. That's my art medium. When I was 16 years old, I built a log cabin on my parents' land out of trees that I cut down. And I lived there when I was a senior in high school at St. Louis High School in Lake Charles in 1978. I lived in this log cabin that I built. And that was kind of like the beginning of the ability to be able to use my hands to create things. I loved it. Well, I started doing stained glass in 1982 as a hobby. And at that time, I was a building contractor. And I did that for 11 years and gradually evolved into building art glass doors. And then gradually I started making the art glass doors where I would actually do the woodwork in conjunction with the movement of the glass. I did that for a long time and then gradually started doing more work with ecclesiastical glass, like churches and that sort of thing. I learned how to paint on glass and then fire it so that the paint becomes permanent. So I did that in a lot of the church windows. And then gradually that kind of led to fusing, doing glass in a kiln and firing it and experimenting with that kind of thing. Now that's all I do full time. Now dichroic glass is made with precious metal oxides and titanium salts, which are fired in a vacuum chamber. The colors actually change with the amount of light that hits them. Like right now you see a reflective, but if I held it up to the light, you would see something come out that's a lot different. What I use this for in the pieces, this is what gives them their spark, their energy, their focal points. These colors that are inside the pieces will actually change throughout the day, which is why I suggest to put them on a naturally lit wall with natural light on them and then artificial light at night so that the colors will change hues throughout the day. And the difference between this type of art, stained glass, you really have to have that in a window where you have light behind it, where you can see the image. This you would put on a wall facing a window where you have light on it. So the subtle changes throughout the day actually change the colors of the glass within the piece. But then I came up with the aluminum idea because of its reflective qualities, and then actually going even a step further and polishing the aluminum according to the glass design so that it brings out the dynamics of the glass. So it's all part of that manipulation of the transparency of glass, blocking the light, changing the light to where I can create a design that has meaning, has feeling, it's got energy, it's got movement. The main driving force behind my art is probably my wife, because she is supportive through thick and thin. She's always been there. She's always supported me, and I really appreciate her. Because you know the saying, behind every good man, there's a woman rolling her eyes.
Frank Thompson enjoys sharing his artistic vision and the meanings behind his designs, which frequently reflect his confidence in both the order and the chaos of life. His website at frankthompson.com contains a rich compilation of his work over the years. Now, let's take a look at some of Louisiana's arts and cultural events in the coming week. For more information on these events, visit our website at lpb.org/artrocks. And you can find more arts events like these at countryroadsmag.com. Brazilian installation artist Lucia Koch turns ordinary scenery into places begging to be seen. At the Wexner Center in Columbus, Ohio, she uses mirrors to capture light and her audience's attention.
I usually create altered states of the place. That's my motivation. Because then I want to remove people from the ordinary experience with a place. You can't ignore architecture here. And I'm sure nobody can. Coming here, at least for the first time, you are kind of dazzled by the building. And it's not an aesthetic issue or an optical or visual issue. It's more conceptual. It's more being aware of the building all the time.
It was really Lucia's choice to work with mirrors. What we did is engage her to do a site-specific project and to sort of react to the architecture of the Wexner Center, because that's what she does. She does site-specific installations using light, patterns, shadows, and in this case, mirrors.
I wanted to work with mirror, because mirror is this sort of device that, though it looks like a sensorial device or material, it's actually very mental, because it demands a comprehension and understanding of how the device works to understand what you're seeing. The effects are sort of unpredictable, because it is a multiplying device. And this sort of surprise that comes in the process of mounting and more than mounting and installing, it comes from the presence of the work in the place. With people interacting with it or just being around it, with the use of it. When it's done, it starts to exist in a way that you couldn't predict totally. When you add something that affects the presence of light, then it's less subliminal. Then you have to see it. You can't take it for granted. And then you start to speculate and to try to understand its presence. I'm not sure I'm giving something. I think I'm affecting a bit the building that is already full of these circumstances that are ambiguous or suspicious or non-precise.
It was clear from the start that Lucia was the right person for this project and someone who would really seriously engage with the architecture in a meaningful way. As a result, in my opinion, this is the most thoughtful reaction to the space that we've ever experienced.
If people that usually visit this place have already, if they are that used to visit this, that it became natural. So maybe my intervention can make it less natural again.
Ceramic artist Sarah Swink draws on her inner child and her psyche to create ceramic figures. These pieces take on a life of their own, often characterized by their visual juxtapositions. They are reminiscent of characters from dreams, or maybe from nightmares. You decide.
I think there's a lot of power in the shadowy side of things, and I don't shy away from it at all. I happen to be in a less dark place in my life right now, but I've been through plenty of dark places and really used art to explore those places. I make human and animal figures with a psychological stance and a dash of humor.
Sarah Swink's ceramic sculptures can be visual juxtapositions, almost familiar creatures, reminiscent of a dream or a half-forgotten nightmare.
My work comes out of my own psyche, and it comes through a process that I use, starting with collage and sometimes involving doodling, sketching, and then making the piece in clay.
The process invites ideas from her unconscious up into view. Then she chooses how to work with them.
It's like an unlearning process to get out of the way. There is a thread and there is a narrative. It's like my life narrative is coming forth in the clay. And if I just stay out of the way and let it come forth and not judge it, then it will keep going. Judgment stops the process cold. So that is a practice. That's a real everyday practice, to suspend judgment, let the ideas just flow and go with where the energy is. I think my style could be described as almost folk arty, sort of folk art from the culture of me. There's thought in it, but for me, it's much more how it feels. And if I can't make a decision about how I want it to look, I picture how I'd want it to be if I kept it in my own bedroom. That's what makes a lot of decisions for me. What I do is I get a big stack of magazines, usually some National Geographics in there, and some art magazines and things that have really high quality photography. And I go through and I just look for things that grab me, that pick me in a way. This is one of my image journals, and here are some of my images. The way that I've broken this up into chunks, these images go together. And there's usually some kind of association between them. And so I like to write notes about what those associations might be, and then sketches start to happen. So here is a sketch of a girl sitting in a chair holding a house, and that's inspired by these girls, these women holding houses, but the house is on fire. Where the fire came from, I don't know, but that became a piece. And so this is a really important part of the process for me. So that's kind of the fun, is finding images that already have meaning and have interest, and then combining them in new ways, and then giving myself this resource library full of ideas and imagery I can draw off of forever.
Next, a sketch that will probably become a piece. She's still exploring, but this time with pen and paper.
Here's the wolf's head, and it's holding this book, How to Train Your Dog. And so that is the beginning of working out this idea of doing a bust of the dog holding the book. One of the ideas that I seem to come back to over and over again is the instinctual versus the domestic. So a wolf, in this case, I combined with this other picture, and it just occurred to me, I think after I put this book together is when it occurred to me, here's someone reading a book with a dog on the front, and I thought, well, this would be the wolf reading the book, How to Train Your Dog. And that's about the danger of the wolf losing its instinctual nature. This is a maquette, and maquette is a French word for model, and it just means a sketch. It's a sketch done in clay. As I'm going, I'm feeling, how do I feel when I look at the piece? Is it capturing the essence of something pleasing to me? And in this case, it was. It captured the gesture I wanted really well. Even actually better than the maquette, because there's a little bit more of the leaning into it that I could do on a larger scale than I could with a smaller one. Adding color is when it all comes together. It's when the vision really starts to happen, because so many of these pieces, like this one, are so much about the color. When the clay is wet, it's beautiful by itself. When it dries, it's less beautiful. When it's bisque fired, its first firing, it's probably at its homeliest. What we have to do is bring back the color to it to make it beautiful again, which is a very challenging process. It's very easy to go wrong with glazing. I'm looking at the brush strokes and thinking about whether I want them to show up or not. I might do a little bit of this to blend them out if I want to, and I'm layering the colors. So I first did red and then orange and now a yellow orange to get really rich, deep colors. I don't like my pieces highly finished. I like to have pieces that have my mark on them, that have hand marks on them that aren't perfect and polished. So I know a piece is finished when it brings the idea across, and I don't need to overwork it from there. I love working with clay because it's malleable, and everything I make has my mark on it no matter what I do. It comes out in my style, and that's just what happens with whatever we do, really. But clay has a special way of becoming like an extension of myself. I do think that the 6-year-old that lives in me is the one who makes the choices about what we make next. And I go with that. I think she knows what she's doing.
To view more of the artist's work, visit sarahswink.com. Each week on Art Rocks, we celebrate an artistic or cultural element with a unique connection to Louisiana. This week's Louisiana treasure is Acadian Village.
The way of life for Cajun families in the 1800s is far removed from our modern way of living. But if you wanted to know how life was not so very long ago, an authentic vision of Southwest Louisiana has been shaped at Acadian Village in Lafayette. Set among 10 acres of gardens and woodlands on the west side of town are a number of historic homes and structures along a winding bayou. 7 of the 11 buildings on site are authentic homes donated by the families whose ancestors once inhabited them. The Thibodeau House, made of cypress, came from Breaux Bridge and dates back to 1820. The oldest home is from 1800, the Bernard House, and features bousillage construction between the framing posts. All of the homes have the patina of age and are excellent examples of period Acadian architecture, complete with wooden pegs, hand-hewn cypress timbers, and high-peaked roofs. Each home was transported piece by piece and restored on site. The first resident dentist in Lafayette worked in this building in the late 1890s. And the LeBlanc House, originally from Youngsville, was the birthplace of Acadian senator and the founder of Hattacall, Dudley J. LeBlanc. Acadian Village has become a special part of the Christmas holidays in Lafayette, with a lighting display showcasing the houses each night and choral groups performing in the chapel leading up to Christmas Day. Acadian Village is owned and operated by the Lafayette Association of Retarded Citizens, or LARC, and all revenue generated from tourism, venue rentals, and fundraising events at the village benefit LARC programs. With the foresight of preserving these historic homes, the Friends of Acadian Village, and Lark have created a Louisiana treasure for all to enjoy.
Architect Garrett Finney had an out-of-this-world job designing living quarters for NASA spacecraft. Now on to his next adventure, Finney is applying his knowledge of the great beyond to an earthbound vehicle for exploration.
I camped a lot as a kid, and then I went to a serious outdoorsy camp where I learned to pick plants and eat them, and go hiking and canoeing and kayaking, and a general respect for the outside. And then I found architecture in the middle of college as a thing that synthesized all my interests, that, you know, reading novels and listening to music and playing outside and just being an observant person in the world. Eventually that led me to furniture design. And at one point I visited a friend who worked at NASA and had this dream that I could live in New York and design furniture for Mars. NASA created this office that I was as equipped for as anyone else. They were coping with the engineering problem of supporting life in space. So they started hiring a few architects to try to think about, you know, not beauty so much, but quality of life. So how do you account for the fact that these two people are from different countries, they speak different languages, they're in a stressful situation? So at some point I left NASA and devoted myself to Earth design. Our RV is a good thing. A lot of people have them. What is an appropriate RV that's sensitive to the environment, that encourages people to get outside, that is not a house on wheels? So all that research led to Cricket, where it's like, what performance specifications can I put together for a trailer that means, in a systemic way, you don't have to buy a new car, that a lot of four-cylinder things can tow a Cricket. It sleeps 2 adults and 2 kids. It's appropriate at campgrounds that like RVs. It's appropriate off the grid because you can go for 4 or 5 days a week with solar power and battery power. Comfortable camping halfway between a tent and a house on wheels. And then the Firefly, which is behind me, is an extension of that. So this is a 600-pound toolbox luggage rack that you happen to be able to sleep and sit comfortably inside. So that means it can be thrown in the back of a small pickup truck and go very far off-road if that's your thing, or it can be attached to a tiny utility trailer and hauled by a mini club van. This is our first prototype. Haven't really thought about colors too much, but it can be colored. It can be, you know, if it's aluminum and glinting in the sun, it could be like a reflection on a pond. You know, we want to be recessive in that way and be part of an ecosystem of the ecology, certainly, but aesthetically, and blending in as much or as little as you want to. Whether this is on a street corner with a mobile DJ pumping out music, or on the top of a mountain somewhere hoisted by a helicopter, that's really fun to think about it. How do you design something that allows all those uses and the human? We have this option of our lunar lander legs that you can put on to take it off a truck or off a trailer and have it standing in a field or on top of a mountain. This you can see is a double bed. I mentioned all the racks outside. We have places to attach things on the inside. All these seat cushions, this is double bed size, flip up to provide access to your gear, or potentially for sitting inside on a rainy day. So you can put on and off muddy boots. These are our interior racks, made for attaching anything, for hanging lights, wet towels and clothes, for strapping your, cleaning up your room. You get to be as compulsively neat or as messy as you please. Windows with a magical clicking option. Shade screen miracle, not my design, standard procedure in European campers. We can go out and drive this on a dirt road and see what falls apart. Is it leaking? Does it let bugs in? Do we wish we had a screen door? All these things. That's why there are 4 or 5 or 10 prototypes on the way to a real product. Design is an iterative process, and improvement really is an iterative process. For me, in my path, it's been humans and performance and machines and methods of manufacturing and materials and the environment, because everything is in fact knitted together. So you really have to be conscious and self-conscious of the way it's knitted together. I'm a designer, but when you discover that your designer brain applies over here in an unexpected spot, and solving that problem actually solves this problem, is really beautiful and worthwhile.
You can keep up with the campus design progress at taxafirefly.com. And that's it for this edition of Art Rocks. Don't forget to visit us online at lpb.org/artrocks. Our website offers features, videos and information on upcoming art events. And until next time, I'm James Fox Smith, and thanks for watching.